So welcome everyone to my channel, Expat Insight, the best place for expat women, moms, and expat mompreneurs. If you like this video series, don't forget to subscribe and share, because the more we are, the more resources we can create together for our expat community. So if you want to share your insight as well about the school in the world, direct message me and I will schedule an interview with you. Today we welcome Christina.
Hi.
We are going to where? Tell me.
We are right now in Luxembourg.
Awesome. So first, thank you so much for your time and sharing with us all your insight and experience about the school in Luxembourg. Can you give us some background about yourself and your family and which country you moved?
My husband works at Ferrero and they have their head office based here in Luxembourg. Prior to Luxembourg, we were in Dubai. Prior to Dubai, we were in Luxembourg. Prior to that, we were in Munich, Germany. Prior to that, we were in Milan, Italy. Prior to that, I was in Hong Kong. My husband was in Tokyo. And prior to that, we were in Shanghai, where we actually met. So in the last 10, 11 years, we've moved or relocated that often, which I
Yes.
can't even count anymore how many times it was, maybe 5 or 6, but quite a few times, yes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely you experienced many countries. So how many months did you have to prepare from Dubai to Luxembourg?
Very short. So we were given the news in April, which was quite late. And at that point in time, I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay.
And this is probably where the stress started for me, was the fact that whenever you hear by law a 4-year-old must go to school, it adds a little bit more pressure to find a school. So we didn't have much time. Yeah, we went to action pretty quickly. So what I did was I researched myself what international schools exist. I was very fortunate. There were only about 4 or 5. So the quantity is not so high compared to Dubai, where my son was already out of school in Dubai, and there you have 50, 60 schools to look at. You know, only having 4 or 5 is manageable.
Okay. So what was important for you when you look at the school? What was your criteria?
Well, we knew 2 of the biggest schools. One was the International School of Luxembourg and one was St. George. The International School of Luxembourg follows an American IB curriculum and St. George is a British curriculum. In Dubai, we had put our son into an IB curriculum, which I really liked. I really enjoyed. I liked the curiosity that he was developing from that curriculum. I grew up in Hong Kong with a British curriculum, so I was able to compare. And I just liked the IB curriculum more. And so the focus really was to see what schools, out of this 4 or 5, what were IB curriculum.
Okay.
And I think another aspect was also to find a school that did the full 12 years, 13 years. Because in Luxembourg, 1 or 2 out of the 5 are just primary. So kindergarten and primary.
Okay.
And so the idea of if we were going to stay here long term and then switch just wasn't appealing to us. You know, I had sent out emails to these 4 to 5 schools, and, you know, within 24 hours, I got a reply from St. George's saying, don't even bother to put in an application. There is 0 spots. There are 25 kids already on the wait list. So
you were really
that was already
stressful time.
Yeah, it was already one that just no opportunity. They wouldn't even have accepted our application. In the end, we got interview spots for the International School of Luxembourg and the European School. And we actually did a trip with our son to do the interviews. I think for both my husband and I, seeing the environment of those 2 schools where we got the interview spots, we definitely liked one over the other, for sure.
Which one did you choose?
So we preferred the International School of Luxembourg over the European School. And again, I think that was just based on our family dynamic, our lifestyle. And also, I'm an entrepreneur, I work as well. The scheduling of the European school wasn't beneficial to us as well.
That's very
Yeah,
important to know that if expat woman wants to run their business and if they have more activities and if the
exactly,
schedule
exactly.
works better, it's good to have this awareness about the school.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to highlight
So,
one thing. I mean, we were in such a dire situation that on that visit, you know, the
mhm,
schools didn't um, give us any notice of whether we were going to get accepted or not.
okay,
So I had to pivot my mindset to also consider public schools, Luxembourgish public schools,
okay,
which um, were beautiful. So the facilities of these public schools are 100 times better than the international
okay.
schools.
Uh-huh.
The question is just, it's a Luxembourgish curriculum. They will learn 3 languages already at kindergarten, which is phenomenal. It is very multicultural. The question is
Which
just,
languages? Which languages?
it would be Luxembourgish, German, French,
Okay.
and then English comes at a later stage. So I need my husband really was pushing me to get around the fact that we didn't want to be separated as a family. So one option was that I stay for another school year in Dubai if we wouldn't get spots.
Yeah.
And so, you know, our goal was not to get separated.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to get my head around these public schools. So we visited, you visit the public school based on where you plan on living
Mm-hmm.
in the commune or district you plan on living in. And they were great. I couldn't say anything negative about it except just simply it's a curriculum that isn't adaptable to anywhere else in the world. And so my con to that was just simply if we relocate again,
Yeah, because you
um,
never know at the end of the
you know,
day.
how do you match that, right?
Yeah.
But luckily, mid-July, so you have to imagine mid-July, we got a confirmation that he got a spot at ISL, which was our number 1 school, and we were very relieved, to
I
say the least. To say the least.
so for this international school. So what is the biggest asset?
I think the biggest asset is first of all the curriculum. So it's an IB curriculum that can be adapted anywhere. It is English based. So English is the primary language that the kids are taught in.
Okay.
And French is a second language.
Okay.
And it's a very balanced curriculum. So they place emphasis on all aspects of the curriculum. So, you know, Stefano does 4 days a week of PE. He does 4 days a week of French. 2 days is art, 2 days are music. I mean, it's a very different schedule compared to what I had growing up. And I like that balance that it's not just reading,
Academic.
writing, maths, but it's involving the other aspects as well to see if the kids can flourish in those areas.
Okay.
So I really like that dynamic. It's very big school. Again, because there's not that many international schools. It is a big school, so there are 100 kids per class.
Oh, that's big. Yeah.
So, for example, now with COVID times, Stefano's grade 1 is 5 classes made up of 16 to 18 kids.
16 to 18 kids. Okay.
Yeah. So
One teacher or two teachers?
you have a main teacher and an assistant teacher per class.
It's a very good ratio.
It's a great ratio. They did that because of COVID. Otherwise, in kindergarten 2, prior to COVID, it was, I think, between 18 and 22 kids per class
But with two,
with 2 teachers
right,
as well.
two teachers.
Yeah.
That's also very good.
So it's a great dynamic. They don't want the kids to be in the same class every year. So every year they will switch the kids around. So you're always having new friends. It's a wonderful dynamic like that.
Yeah, it's hard to adapt at the beginning, but at the end, it's a good thing. What would be the drawback if there is one?
I still struggle at this age to have clarity on the curriculum, on what they're learning, even though we have a WhatsApp community of parents. There is Seesaw, which is a tool that the school uses to send photos or to send what the activities the kids are learning. Homeschooling has fortunately told me the capabilities of my kid. My kid, first of all, is a boy. He doesn't want to talk about school when he gets home. He doesn't want to tell me what he's done or what he's learned. So it was amazing during the homeschooling to know that he was speaking French. I had no idea that
So you got really surprised.
that he could. I didn't know the level of his math mathematical skills. I also, for me, it was new to see that he's much better at maths than he is at writing. And I didn't know that. And with COVID, obviously, we haven't been able to have parent teacher conferences. And I don't know why I feel like I should know more. But yeah, I would love to know more get more clarity about what he's doing, what he's learning, what activities he's doing.
It's just, I think it's because we're not going to stay in this school forever or in this system forever. And we might change, and we want to know if they are at level when we go to another country. We want to know if the school say, okay, did they learn this? Did they learn that? And it's important to to be a little bit more in control, because the system is not in control. We are.
Correct. And I think one reason that I have this opinion of needing more clarity is because in Dubai, my son went to the Swiss International School, and there they follow the IB curriculum from pre-K.
Okay.
At ISL in Luxembourg, they follow the IB curriculum from middle school up. So in primary school, it's actually an American system that I'm fully not aware of. And it's also not a full American system. They're adapting the curriculum to a variety of different systems, both British, American. Apparently there's a Nordic system added in there somewhere as well. So it's the unknown. I don't really understand the curriculum or know it. And the way he's being taught is so different from how I was taught as well. That when you have this ability to compare schools, so I compare the Dubai school with the Luxembourg school, it's just simply different, and I have to accept it. And I don't think it means that he's worse off or better off. I just think it's different. And so you have to adapt yourself to that as a parent, and then your son has to adapt to it as a child.
This is one of the big challenge of the kids and the parents is to adapt to every system, languages, curriculum, and how to teach, and the style of teaching. If you can give us also Luxembourg, how it's organized, like the geography, where are the school compared to the city center, where the most expats are living, and just a global overview of the city.
So Luxembourg is very small to begin with. It's not a big country. The schools are basically, if you look at the city center of Luxembourg, which is Luxembourg City, you have all the international schools, maybe 5 kilometers, maximum 10 kilometers from literally the point of the city center. It depends on how you want to live. So when we moved, because we only discovered that the school spot was mid-July, we got the announcement. We actually made a decision to move based on the house we liked. So we wanted to be in a house. We didn't want to be in an apartment. And we just chose the best house that we liked, that we knew would fit us. And we made an offer on that 1 week where we did the interviews for the school.
Okay.
So our house is 20 kilometers away from the school. Mm-hmm. It's not optimal. Traffic in Luxembourg is a disaster when you're not considering COVID times.
Okay, so when you go to the school, how long does it take you?
So if there's zero traffic, it would be not more than 15-20 minutes. If there is traffic, I have been stopped with bumper to bumper for over an hour and a half. The advantage of where we live, though, is that we have 3 routes to go to the school. So it gives us options in terms of being able to go there. We live, just to give a reference, we live closer to the German side, the German border. And then you have also the French side, which is south, and the Belgium side, which is west.
If you want to be next to the school, you have to get an apartment in the city center.
Correct. And it's expensive. I mean,
it's expensive.
Yeah.
And if you want a house, then you have to live out.
You can also find houses in the city center. It just depends on the budget that you're going to set. Okay. So one thing to also keep in mind is that Luxembourg is a hub. So meaning that if you are an expat that has been expatriated to any border area outside, so whether it's Belgium, France, or Germany, many people live in Luxembourg because of the school. Because it's the only area, the nearest international schools would be Frankfurt, Paris, Brussels.
Okay.
So a lot of people decide to reside in Luxembourg because of the schools, but they work then in the neighboring countries. They commute, correct.
They commute. Sorry.
I mean, now we've been here for a year and a half. This is the second school year. And my habit is to check Google Maps before I leave the house to see what's the best route to take. And usually that's a 20-minute drive. No, it's not the end of the world. And you get used to it at some point.
Yeah, it's a matter of organization.
Exactly. But we are thrilled by the area that we live in.
So which area are you living?
So we live in an area, the commune is called NIEDERANVEN, and we live in a small village in NIEDERANVEN, which is called SENNINGERBERG.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a nice community.
It's a beautiful community. There are a lot of retirees, but there are also, a lot of young families with kids. And one thing, again, that we didn't know of until we moved in was luckily we have even 2 playgrounds that are 5-minute walking distance away. So even though we have a house with a garden, the kids can still go to the playgrounds after school. Also, we're in a small little village that is flat, so they can go scootering and bicycling around. And it's a very quaint, it's a very safe, quaint neighborhood where everybody kind of takes care of everybody. So it's quite nice in that regard, and it gives the kids a sense of freedom as well.
Okay. That's awesome. The last question, if your best friend was coming to Luxembourg, what would be the top 3 advices that you would give her?
Oh my God. The first thing, because the school thing was very, very heavy on me. The first thing I would say is contact the school straight away. As we've lived here, we have learned actually that there are more than 4 to 5 schools. There are some public schools that have an international curriculum, which we weren't even aware of at the time. Number 2, plan a visit out, because I think nothing beats seeing things yourself. Yeah. You can look at all the videos. I mean, with COVID, obviously we're in difficult situations, but if you have that ability, fly out and have your kids see it and get their opinion on it. You know, I could see immediately the comfort level of my son in ISL compared to the European school.
See the difference, yeah.
I totally saw the difference. My third piece of advice, which is, again, we did it in the reverse because we just were in a tight spot where the schools is, live where the school is, or live as close as possible to where the school is so you can avoid the traffic.
So there is the triptych: school, home, and office.
Absolutely. And just physically seeing things yourself, and having an understanding of the city dynamic. Okay. It's not a real city. You know, you can't compare Luxembourg City to Paris, Frankfurt, Dubai, Shanghai, Hong Kong. It's much more tranquil than that. It's much more countryside than that. Many people would consider Luxembourg City a suburb of a bigger city. So you have to be able to see it yourself to get a feel for it and understand it. But again, everybody has a different style and taste. I mean, for us, we moved from Dubai, having lived in a house in Dubai. We have friends who moved from Shanghai. They lived in an apartment in Shanghai, so they chose an apartment in Luxembourg. So I think it just depends on what you're looking for and what the dynamic is that you're looking for in terms of family.
So thank you so much, Christina, for all your insight. They're so valuable for our expat community, because we know that finding the right school for our kids is our priority number 1. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So for those who would like to share their insight as well and help other expat moms in their research during the preparation phase, just send me an email, Anne at Expat Coaching Corner, and we can schedule an interview anytime.